lie still, the blankets soft and heavy, and the night quietly hums around you. Outside, the wind plays a slow game with the trees, rustling leaves just enough to remind you that time is still moving, even if your mind is about to pause. And tonight, we'll be walking gently through the fog-draped streets of Victorian England. Don't worry, there won't be any sharp noises, no frightening figures darting across gaslit alleys. Just lace-up boots, the sound of chimney smoke curling upward, and the slightly unsettling idea that people once thought nightmares could actually kill you. Cheery, right? But hey, you probably won't make it through this day. That's not a threat, just a quiet bet between me and your eyelids. They're already getting heavier. Before we start, if you enjoyed drifting into forgotten corners of history with us, do give Whispers of History a soft tap on the subscribe button. It helps keep the oil lamps burning here. And if you feel like sharing, tell us your location and what time it is where you are. We love knowing which century you're in. Now let's ease into tonight's journey. It's a Tuesday, not that it matters. Every day in 1861, London is draped in the same color, a sooty that even the sky seems bored with. You're walking along street, boots thudding softly on the damp cobblestones, past rows of houses that seem determined not to be noticed. Most of them are rented by men with very large mustaches and very small emotional vocabularies. You pause in front of number 92, not because it's special, it's not, but something faint draws you in. A curtain twitches. A draft of coal smoke smells faintly like cloves. And inside this modest row house, someone is quietly screaming into their pillow. Welcome to the world of Victorian nightmare disorder, a phenomenon so misunderstood that physicians of the era literally thought dreams had teeth. One man famously described it as the weight of 1,000 devils seated on the chest, which makes modern anxiety dreams about missing a Zoom call seem quaint. You enter the hallway. The wallpaper is peeling, floral patterns sagging under years of damp London fog. A ticking clock nearby sounds like it's having second thoughts. Upstairs, behind the third door on the left, a young woman named twists in her sleep. Her family thinks she's being visited by a demon. The doctor thinks it's hysteria. She thinks nothing, she can't move. You watch her eyes flutter, and for a moment they freeze open, wide and terrified. Her body doesn't follow. Her muscles are locked in place like someone turned her into a wax doll mid-sentence. The Victorians didn't have the term sleep paralysis, but they had a flair for branding. They called it old hag syndrome, a deeply reassuring term. Sometimes, in popular folklore, people believed an invisible crone sat on your chest at night, stealing your breath like unpaid rent. Here's the strange part. Stories about being pinned in place during sleep span cultures and continents. Even today, people report nearly identical symptoms: immobile, wide-eyed, utterly awake while their body snoozes on strike. Historians still debate whether the rise in reported cases during the Victorian era was due to increased anxiety from industrialization, or from reading too many ghost stories by candlelight. Probably both. You linger in the room for a while, the candlelight dancing across face. Eventually, her body lets go. She exhales with a sharp gasp like she's just breached the surface of a dark lake. Somewhere in the hallway, a floorboard creaks. Nobody moved. Maybe this house has its own dreams. Later that night, you find yourself outside again. The sky has reluctantly cleared, revealing a reluctant moon, pale and suspicious. You follow the street deeper into Bloomsbury, past a bakery that smells like overcooked loaves and burned ambition. You end up in front of a small apothecary, its window fogged from the inside like it's sighing. The bell above the door tinkles as you enter, nervous, not cheerful. Inside, the shelves groan with jars labeled in handwriting so gothic it could sue for emotional distress. There are powders, tonics, and something called nervous essence. It claims to pacify the night spirits and soften the mind's struggle. No promises on taste. Behind the counter stands Mr., a man who looks like he's been awake since 1823. He nods at you with the slow suspicion of someone who's seen things. Mostly dreams, occasionally ghosts, possibly a hallucination of Queen Victoria made of bees. He offers you a small vial. Nightmare drops, he says, popular with poets and overworked schoolboys. Apparently, nightmares weren't just the domain of hysterical women or the spiritually tormented. By mid-century, they were considered a legitimate medical concern, right up there with melancholia, neurasthenia, and the vague but fashionable diagnosis of excessive thought. You leave the shop with the vial in your coat pocket. It jingles softly like a secret. Behind you, the apothecary closes the door, but the bell rings again, only this time no one came in. On your way back, you pass a man sitting motionless on a park bench staring at nothing. A small sign hangs around his neck. It reads, "I dream too loud." You keep walking, he doesn't blink. We now know that many of these nightmare disorders were linked to what we'd call REM disturbances or stress-induced parasomnias. But back then, doctors sometimes treated it with leeches, prayer, or moderate doses of laudanum, which, if you're unfamiliar, is basically liquid opium with a fancy label. One particularly odd case documented in 1870 involved a woman who claimed she could trap her nightmares in glass bottles and kept them under her bed. When pressed for proof, she showed visitors cloudy jars filled with what she called moon dust and bad thoughts. Historians suspect it may have just been bath salts. Nobody had the heart to tell her. And nobody, even now, can fully explain why the mind occasionally turns on itself between midnight and morning. Whether it's memories or misfiring neurons or a ghost in old pajamas, the cause remains a little mysterious. Your feet carry you back to his house. The window is dark now. Her dreams, for tonight at least, seem quiet. You lean against the iron fence outside and look up. Above you, chimney smoke rises, curling into the stars like forgotten wishes. Somewhere in the city, another scream is muffled by a pillow. And somewhere much closer, your breath softens too. Shall we keep walking? You wake, or at least you think you do. The air is thicker now, like someone has pulled velvet curtains over the city, muffling its sounds and dimming its edges. Even your footsteps are quieter, as if the street is asking you to walk politely. You take a turn into a narrower lane, one of those oddly angular Victorian backstreets where every brick seems to have an opinion. The kind of alley that collects fog like secrets and always seems to smell faintly of potatoes and regret. Here, a lamplighter is making his rounds. He moves slowly, balancing a long pole like a conductor drawing out a symphony in gaslight. With each flick of the flame, a little halo flares to life, casting golden rings that never quite touch the ground. You catch his eye. He doesn't smile, but gives the smallest nod, like you've both read the same strange chapter and silently agreed to never speak of it. You trail behind him for a few blocks, your boots clicking in sync with his. He stops by a brick wall covered in half-torn flyers. One advertises a traveling mesmerist, another a night lecture on the danger of contaminated dreams. You can't tell if that one's real or someone's idea of satire. Hard to say with Victorians, they were always dancing on the edge of science and the lamplighter points with his chin toward a large building just ahead, squatting under the shadows like it's sulking. The Royal Hospital, or as it's more popularly whispered, Bedlam. The word has wandered far from its source, but here it still feels heavy, its syllables damp with history. You push open the wrought iron gate. It doesn't creak. It groans like it has complaints but no one to tell them to. The hospital's facade looms above you, all windows and sternness, with architectural flourishes that try a little too hard to be hopeful. Inside, a ward for nervous afflictions buzzes faintly under low candlelight. This is where those gripped by uncontrollable terrors are sent. Those who mutter about figures standing at the foot of their beds. Those who wake with bruises and no memory of how they got them. While you slip inside, you hear nurses move like shadows, quiet, methodical, slightly overworked. You find a small wooden chair tucked beside a patient's cot and lower yourself into it. The patient is a man in his 50s, clean-shaven but pale, with the kind of posture that suggests his body hasn't quite decided whether it's awake or not. His name is Mr. Each night, they say, he wakes exactly at 3:03 a.m., eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream. He describes it, when lucid, as a great black pressure with hands. He says it slides through the cracks in the windows even when they're shut, that it stands behind him while he sleeps, waiting for his spine to forget it's there. Medical notes nearby record his condition as nocturnal terrors with somatic restraint. Translation: he freezes and sees things. Sometimes he weeps afterward, not loudly, but in the embarrassed way Englishmen do everything emotional. One doctor theorized his condition stemmed from an incident during the Franco-Prussian War. Another swears it's epilepsy. A third believes it's caused by indigestion and moral failing, and recommends fewer oysters and more Bible verses. Historians still debate whether the rise of Victorian sleep disorders was a response to the mechanization of life, the growing separation of man from nature, clockwork from chaos. Or perhaps more simply, it was the coffee. Victorians drank a lot of it, and their nighttime brains paid the price. While you watch shifts beneath his thin blanket, his mouth twitches. His breath pauses. A single tear escapes the corner of his eye and soaks into the pillow. You stay until dawn fingers the window panes. The morning in Victorian London is not so much a beginning as it is a gentle resignation. Fog turns slowly to soot. Church bells ring with the enthusiasm of someone who's been doing the same job since the 14th century. And the milkman, bless him, drips his way up the street, leaving behind wet footprints and unreasonably early clinking sounds. You are now outside again, gloved hands tucked in your coat pockets. The world is brighter, yes, but not exactly clearer. You head toward the Royal College of Physicians, where the city's most respectable thinkers spend their time debating topics like the spirit's influence on respiratory function and whether beans aggravate the soul. Inside, a seminar is in progress. You slip into the back row of a low-lit lecture hall filled with tweed jackets, mutton chops, and notebooks scribbled in what could generously be called English. As a professor in a waistcoat paces at the front, tapping the edge of a blackboard with a piece of chalk. "We must consider," he says dramatically, "that the mind during slumber may detach from its faculties, leaving the body vulnerable to foreign energies." A murmur of agreement ripples through the room, as though someone just suggested a really radical new tea flavor. He goes on to present a theory that nightmares may be physical invasions of external fear, not internal memory. That sleep is not merely rest but travel. The brain, he suggests, sails nightly into a sea of unseen forces, and sometimes, only sometimes, those forces crawl back with it. In the hallway outside the lecture room, pinned neatly on a corkboard, you find an odd pamphlet. It's titled, "Of Nightmares Collected from the House of the Dying." You read entries like, "I dreamed I was buried in my own bedclothes, and they whispered to me. I saw my mother's face in the wallpaper, and it blinked. I fell asleep in my room, woke in the garden barefoot." Each one feels like a small, sealed jar of something you shouldn't open, but can't help uncorking. One researcher in the 1880s believed that cultural repression was a major cause of recurring nightmares. That stuffing feelings down during the day led them to explode in the dark, like emotional geysers in linen nightgowns. He recommended long walks, journaling, and curiously, burning lavender while reciting Latin. Though the Latin didn't help, but lavender does smell nice. As you exit the college, the midday sun tries its best to be cheerful but mostly succeeds in making the chimney smoke more visible. You walk through Square, where a pair of young boys chase each other with a kite that refuses to fly. A woman nearby fans herself with a handkerchief embroidered with tiny moons. She catches your gaze for a moment, just long enough to feel like she knows something you don't. You keep moving. There's a second hand ahead, tucked between a bakery and a place that sells nothing but buttons. The shop's sign reads, "The Dreaming Shelf." Inside, the air smells of old pages and theories. You browse titles like The Demon of the Fifth Hour, Why Sleep Hurts the Pure, and Cushions and Curses, a study in night terrors. You pull down a slim volume, worn and whisper-thin. On the first page is a hand-drawn diagram of a sleeper's silhouette surrounded by hovering shapes, triangles, moths, unfamiliar eyes. A line beneath reads, "To dream is to remember the things you never lived." You stand there for a long moment, holding that sentence. As outside, bells chime again, this time for tea. You're not quite sure what's real anymore, but it all feels gentle somehow, strange, yes, but soft. Would you like to follow the thread a little further? There's still time before night returns. The tea bell echoes like a soft commandment, and the city obeys. You drift into a nearby, though in Victorian terms, this is less and more a narrow room with too many chairs, lace curtains that block the light out of sheer stubbornness, and a stern woman behind the counter who believes sugar is a moral weakness. You take a seat by the window. The tablecloth has been ironed to within an inch of its existence. Outside, horses clatter past. Their breath fogs in the air, a ghostly trail of effort. Inside, a small fire crackles, battling both chill and awkward silence. As at the next table, two women are deep in conversation. You pretend not to listen, which is to say, you listen completely. She says she wakes up every night at the same time, the first woman whispers. Always gasping, always drenched, and she swears there's a little man standing by her bureau. "The man," the other replies, eyebrows rising. "What sort of man's?" She wouldn't say, only that he hums. That sounds like the laudanum talking. You sip your tea. It tastes like boiled regret and maybe time. But the stories keep pouring than anything in your cup. You learn of a servant girl in Kensington who claimed her dreams could predict weather, of a seamstress who stitched black thread into her pillowcase to ward off sleep invaders, and of a retired colonel who once tried to sue his nightmares for emotional damage. The court declined to hear the case. One obscure cultural tidbit from this time that slips between the cracks of common history. Some Victorians believed your soul could momentarily leave the body during nightmares, and if startled awake too quickly, it might not come back correctly. This led to an odd custom in some circles, ringing a tiny bell near the sleeper's head before waking them, like calling a cat back into the house. The scholar William wrote in 1873, "To rouse one rudely from dreaming is to interrupt a divine conversation. The soul returns, but not always with the same grammar." No one quite knew what he meant, but people quoted it anyway. That's how Victorian science worked, really. As the clears, you step outside once more. The sun has begun its descent, and the city enters its golden melancholy hour, when the light slants long across rooftops and makes every chimney look like a crooked monument to forgotten ambition. You walk toward the river now. The Thames moves like a sluggish thought, carrying soot, silt, and half-formed poetry downstream. You pause at the embankment, watching it churn. Across the water, shadows from cranes and cargo ships stretch over the buildings like giant fingers trying to remember what they were reaching for. A man nearby is sketching. His notebook is weathered, edges curled like a forgotten pie crust. You glance over and see not the river but a series of dreamscapes, twisted alleys, people floating just above their beds, staircases that lead into mouths. He notices you looking and says, "It's all from the mind. Mostly when I'm half asleep, that's when it comes honest." He points to a drawing of a house with no doors. "Dreamt I lived here for 6 years, could never get out. Then one night I found the exit behind a painting of a dog, haven't dreamt of it since." Now you nod like this is perfectly reasonable, because in this world it is. You keep walking along the embankment. A cold wind picks up, tugging at your coat and curling your fingers. Up ahead, you notice an odd structure tucked under the bridge. At first glance, it looks like a storage shack. But when you get closer, you realize it's a private dream laboratory, the sort that popped up briefly in the late 1800s when people began trying to scientifically trap dreams in physical form. While you duck inside, the room is dim, lined with books and wires. A woman in a linen dress and heavy spectacles greets you. "Welcome," she says without surprise. "We're studying nocturnal mental interruptions. Do you lucid dream?" You tell her you mostly just forget them. She nods solemnly, like that's a symptom of something far worse. She shows you a device, a headband fitted with delicate bells and threads of copper. It's meant to sound the dream's perimeter, whatever that means. Nearby, there's a shelf of sealed jars, each labeled with a single word: abandonment, flight, mirrors, spoons. You don't ask questions. You just breathe the strange scent of chalk and hope and listen as she explains her theory, that dreams are residual energy echoes of thoughts we failed to process by dusk. That in Victorian society, with its corsets, etiquette, and locked drawers, too many feelings were left unsorted. So they returned, in the dark, dressed as phantoms or memories or monstrous versions of your second cousin. Historians, she says, tapping one of the jars, still debate whether we dream to remember or to forget. You thank her and leave with a small paper tucked in your coat. "Journal your shadows," it reads. "They grow quieter when named." As night returns, the city shifts. The smoke resumes its usual conversation with the stars. The lamplighter is making his rounds again, slower this time, as if the flame resists the glass. And you, still strolling, still half inside the story, begin to feel the air grow heavier. Like it knows what's coming next. The streets are quieter now. Not empty, no, London never really empties, but there's a hush in the cobblestones, a softer rhythm in the horse hooves, as if the city has decided it's time to speak in whispers. You find yourself walking past a row of narrow houses, their windows flickering with the dim light of hearths. Curtains flutter gently like they're breathing. A child cries faintly somewhere above, then is quickly hushed. A cat watches you from a rooftop, clearly judging your coat. You pause outside one particular house, not because it's grand, but because it is. The door is faded green, flaked with time. The knocker is shaped like a lion's head, but the lion looks tired. You step inside. This is the home of Dr. A woman quietly notorious in academic circles for claiming that dreams could be inherited, passed down like freckles or poor posture. She believed that the Victorians, with all their morning rituals and emotional constipation, were carrying generational nightmares, stitched invisibly into the family quilt. She greets you with the warmth of someone who's just been proven right again. Her study is dimly lit by oil lamps, and on every wall hangs a framed drawing, twisted family trees, each branch sprouting with phrases like "sleep screams at age 9" or "recurring shadow behind grandfather's wardrobe." She offers you tea spiced, slightly bitter, and unrolls a large scroll across the table. It's a map of London but overlaid with red thread forming a web of reported night terrors. "East End's the worst," she murmurs. "Something about the humidity and unresolved grief." You nod slowly, pretending you understand. She taps a point on the map near. 3 generations of women there all dreamt of drowning in porcelain tubs. Different houses, same dream. No one ever really proved her theories, but no one disproved them either. And in the 1891 journal Dreaming and Delirium, she published her final paper, "The City That Dreams Through Us." It suggested, rather poetically, that perhaps the city itself was the dreamer and we were merely its sleep twitches. Historians still debate whether this was metaphor madness or something else entirely. As you leave her home, the air is heavier, more velvet than mist. You pass a man who pauses to light his pipe and says to no one, "Some nights I wake up inside someone else's memory." Then he tips his hat and disappears into the fog. You wonder if he means it, and quietly if you should start keeping a journal too. You're back near the Thames again, though this time you're on the south bank. The wind off the river carries a chill laced with coal dust and a peculiar hint of rosemary. Maybe someone's cooking, or maybe someone's trying to keep the ghosts at bay. There's a warehouse here that doesn't appear on any official maps. Its brickwork is rough, its roof slightly bowed, and its sign faded and swinging reads, "The Archive of Unremembered Dreams." You enter because of course you do. Inside it smells like paper, rain, and a hint of something metallic. A man at the desk looks up. He wears round spectacles, fogged slightly from his tea. He nods as if he's been expecting you and gestures toward the stacks. The shelves rise high and uneven. Each one holds thin journals, thousands of them. You pick one up at random, green leather, gold filigree. On the spine, Florence W. 1874-1877. You open it. Inside are page after page of dream descriptions, written in tight, hurried script. 19 found myself in a garden where every flower had a face. One resembled my mother, none spoke. 8 slept in a train compartment with no door, woke with the feeling someone had left. July 12, the moon had hands. It tried to braid my hair. None of these entries are signed, and yet each one feels intimately known, like you've brushed against these dreams in passing in your own nights. The man at the desk explains, "We collect dreams that don't stay, the ones people forget before breakfast. They float here." While you ask how they get them, he shrugs. They arrive. He leads you toward a different section, the untitled shelves. These hold dreams recorded by scribes who never woke. People who fell asleep during surgery, fainted in horse carts, or drifted off mid-prayer and didn't return. Their dreams were scribbled mid-dream, often in fragments. Now you flip through a few. A cracked mirror with my brother's voice, not my brother. The wings on my feet wouldn't let me land. I asked the sun a question, woke up coughing feathers. None of it makes strict sense, but somehow it doesn't have to. The Victorians were obsessed with cataloging. They classified dreams the way they classified beetles or spoons, by type, by cause, by what was dreamt before and after. There were even dream dictionaries published regularly, most of which confidently contradicted each other. The one stated, to dream of apples indicates prosperity. Another, to dream of apples is a sure sign of illness. The third warned, apples in dreams signal death unless eaten raw. So naturally, the logical Victorian response was, eat fewer apples and blame your nightmares on Tuesdays. You ask the archivist whether he dreams. He pauses, tilts his head, and says, not anymore, but I think I'm remembered in someone else. He hands you a slip of paper. On it is a single sentence. Tonight, dream gently, the city is listening. You exit the warehouse feeling like you've inhaled someone else's memory. As outside, a dog howls far off. Not a threatening sound, more of a reminder that even in dreams, someone always hears you. The sky has gone indigo. A street musician plays a soft tune on a violin that sounds like it's weeping through a cough. The lamplighter is back again, his third round of the day. You wave at him this time. He waves back. And the light follows you into the dark. It's properly night now. The kind of night where windows flicker with candlelight like tiny nervous eyes, and every step on the cobblestones feels just a little too loud. The city is shrinking inward, folding its arms around its secrets. And you, still walking, feel like a ghost who hasn't yet realized they've passed on. You cross into one of London's sleepier yet more superstitious districts. Here, people still hang sprigs of mugwort above their beds to fend off wandering dreams. One family even nails their shoes to the floor each night, just in case their souls get tempted to walk away while they sleep. You pass a bakery that sells sleep bread, a molasses-heavy loaf rumored to bring pleasant dreams. The recipe includes nutmeg and something the baker calls moon pepper, which is probably just cinnamon with marketing. Still, locals swear by it. They eat it warm just before bed and tell stories of flying over foggy rivers and talking to their dead grandmothers who give advice about investments. One small alley catches your attention. It winds sharply like it's embarrassed to be noticed. At the end of it is a building with ivy-covered stone and a carved sign over the door. Society Est 1857. Now you push the door open. Inside it smells like beeswax, ink, and camphor. A low hum of conversation fills the room, along with the occasional clink of teacups and the rustle of long skirts. The members here gather weekly to share and analyze dreams, not just for fun but as a kind of spiritual archaeology. They believe the soul drops clues each night, breadcrumbs from the unconscious that, if properly deciphered, can lead you to your true self. You sit quietly as a woman reads from her dream journal. Her voice is slow and matter-of-fact, as if she's describing grocery errands. I stood on a frozen canal. The ice below me was glass, and inside it floated books with wings. Each time I stepped forward, a book cracked open and whispered my father's name. No one laughs, no one even blinks. They all just nod solemnly, like she said something as ordinary as the weather. Another member, a pale man in a black cravat, shares a nightmare about being chased through a library by his childhood math teacher, who speaks only in riddles and smells faintly of cinnamon. He swears he woke up with chalk dust on his hands. The society's founder, a woman known only as Miss E, finally speaks. She's in her 60s with the kind of posture that could slice bread. Her theory: that dreams are not metaphors at all, but alternate realities testing their way into yours, like fingers prodding soft dough to see if it's ready. She warns, if you begin remembering every dream, be careful. You might be crossing a threshold. Historians still debate whether the society was a harmless hobby for the eccentric or a proto-psychological movement far ahead of its time. Wouldn't publish the interpretation of dreams until 1899. But these folks were already doing nightly fieldwork into the subconscious. Armed only with ink, poetry, and an admirable tolerance for strangers talking about their feelings. As the meeting ends, Miss E presses a small card into your hand. On it, in looping script, "Dreams are stories you didn't know you knew. Return gently." You step back outside. The wind curls around your coat, and somewhere behind you the lamplighter lights one final flame. You're walking again, this time along the river's edge where the stones are slick and the world feels like it's been gently dipped in ink. The water laps at the wall in lazy, rhythmic breaths, not rushed, just present. Somewhere nearby, a church bell rings a single note. You follow it through damp streets, past leaning gas lamps, past a shuttered puppet where even the painted marionettes seem to be dreaming. Eventually, you come upon a narrow footbridge. It stretches over the canal like a spine slick with mist. At the center stands a hunched man in a wool coat and gloves with the fingertips worn through. He's humming. When he sees you, he says, "They say if you stand here at midnight and close your eyes, the dreams of the people sleeping nearby will float through you." Well, you ask if it works. Oh, he shrugs, depends on the night and the dreamer. So naturally you try. Well, you close your eyes. At first, there's nothing, just the usual echo of your own thoughts, like pebbles skipping in a shallow mind. But then, faintly, you sense something, a flicker, the smell of oranges, the sound of lace tearing. A voice whispering a name that isn't yours but still makes your heart tighten like it remembers. The man smiles as you open your eyes. "Someone's having a vivid one tonight," he says. You leave him there humming. Now, just past the bridge is a house you've seen before. It's the young woman you watched twist in the grip of sleep paralysis that first night. You hesitate outside the gate. Then softly you step through it again. Her room is dim. Moonlight spills through the window in hesitant streaks. The bed is neat, the air still. And yet, the moment you enter, you feel something stir, not malevolent, just aware. Now, she's sleeping peacefully tonight. A curl of hair falls across her forehead. Her breath is steady. Now, you sit in the same chair as before. Nearby, a candle has burned low, the wax forming odd shapes that look faintly like faces. On her nightstand is a book of poetry. You recognize the handwriting in the margins, little notes to herself. Oh, do dreams ever get tired? Why do I always wake up before the storm hits? Oh, she's trying to understand. The Victorians, for all their starch and superstition, tried hard too. They attended lectures, read pamphlets, invented machines. They mixed science with folklore. And in the dark, when their minds turned soft and strange, they feared and dreams in equal measure. One obscure anecdote rarely told. A shoemaker once claimed that dreams were echoes from your soul's twin living in reverse. He believed every dream was a message sent from a version of himself walking backward through time. He died content, apparently, knowing that somewhere his twin was being born old and growing young. Now you sit a little longer by his bed. Outside, the street is quiet. The gas lamp flickers twice, then once. You stay for a long time beside. Not because anything dramatic happens, but because there's something comforting in her stillness. Something sacred almost. You watch her fingers twitch now and then as if she's reaching for something she'll never quite grasp, like the end of a sentence that keeps changing shape. Eventually, you leave quietly, pulling the door until it clicks shut with a soft, exhausted sigh. Outside, the fog has settled in heavier now, cloaking the street like a memory you're not supposed to recall. Your boots press into puddles with satisfying softness, the sound of solitude. You pass an alley where someone is playing a harmonica very badly, and another where a group of women in bonnets whisper about the price of eggs and whether dreams can cause nosebleeds. This is the time of night when London starts to unravel just a little. You can see it in the way lamplight bends strangely around corners, or how the shadows stretch a few inches too far when no one's moving. It's not frightening, just curious. Like the city is daydreaming about itself. While you turn onto a street you don't recognize. The buildings here are older than Victorian, even Georgian facades with dark windows and crumbling plaster. You hear a bell ring softly, not from a clock tower but from a doorway nearby. There's a brass plaque on the wall, smudged and tarnished. It reads, "The Gentle Institute for the Study of Sleep and Other Unprovable States." You knock, why not? A small woman with wild white hair and gold-rimmed glasses answers the door. "You're here for the midnight tour, I suppose," she says. You're not sure if it's a question. She waves you in. Inside, the walls are covered in velvet and soft green wallpaper, the air thick with lavender and dust. She leads you down a hall lined with glass cases. Now this one, she says, pointing, contains the pillow of a man who dreamt for 37 days straight. Never woke, the bedding never wrinkled. Another case holds a vial labeled Captured Breath from a Night Terror, 1848. You ask how one captures a breath, she says, with timing and a bell jar. Is at the far end of the corridor, she stops before a portrait of a child with closed eyes. He never opened them, not once, but he laughed every night at precisely 2:30. She stares at the painting for a moment, then adds, "We never did find the joke." She tells you the institute was founded by a doctor-poet named Blemish, who believed that dreams were not simply experiences, but entire civilizations collapsing behind our eyelids every night. He published one book, slept for 11 years, and then vanished. Now, historians still debate whether he was real, or just the Institute's origin myths. You sit for a moment in a room they call a circular library with high-backed chairs and a fireplace that crackles at a perfect volume. On the shelves, titles like On the Weight of Dreams, Sleep's Political Agenda, and a map of all the beds I have known. You pick up a small book and leaf through its fragile pages. One sentence catches your eye. Now, when you cannot speak your grief, your dreams will whisper it in someone else's voice. It lands in your chest like a feather made of stone. You thank the guide, who seems already to have forgotten you were here. Outside, the fog thickens around your shoulders like a shawl. A cat rubs against your leg and vanishes without walking away. Now you keep moving. Now you are starting to forget what time it is. Not because it's late, but because time no longer feels relevant. Victorian London does that to you, especially in the in-between hours, the lamplight hours, the hours where the chimneys sleep and the clocks just hum instead of tick. You find yourself at the edge of cemetery, its iron gates yawning open like they've grown bored of being closed. A sign hangs loosely, "Visitors welcome, spirits optional." You step through. As the path winds upward, the air cooler here, heavy with moss and crumbled stone. The gravestones tilt at odd angles like they're leaning into gossip. Somewhere to your right, a raven caws, clearly offended by your presence. You walk until you find a circle of benches around a fountain that no longer runs. Here sits an elderly man, dressed in a gray waistcoat and holding a lantern, though he doesn't seem to need it. "You're late," he says, smiling. "But that's fine, most dreams run behind schedule." You sit beside him. He introduces himself as Mr. Finch, part-time groundskeeper, full-time dream chronicler. Every week, he collects stories from the graves, dreams remembered by the dead. Do the dead dream, you ask? Oh, endlessly, he says, but their dreams are simpler, slower. Mostly they dream of the last cup of tea they never finished, or old socks, or the smell of thunder on laundry day. He pulls from his coat a thin notebook. Inside, scrawled in scratchy pencil, are entries like, Mrs. H. 1804-1866 dreamt of slicing apples endlessly with no core. Rev. Thomas 1783-1842 walked barefoot over hymns. Said the grass whispered back. Some dreams are strange, others are sweet. One though catches your eye. In name unknown, no stone left. Dreamt of a house with no roof and rain that made no sound, refused to wake. Mr. Finch tells you that most visitors don't see the cemetery as a place of sleep, but that's all it really is. Just a resting place between lives, he murmurs. A long nap with optional visions. You walk with him a while longer, past ivy-wrapped angels, past headstones that sigh when you pass. He shows you a tree said to grow from the grave of a man who only dreamt of fire. The bark feels warm when you touch it. He offers you a final piece of advice before you go. When you next wake from a strange dream, don't ask what it meant. Ask instead, who else dreamt it too? You nod, you don't quite understand it, but you will. Later, maybe in sleep. You leave the cemetery as dawn begins to pale the sky with trembling fingers. London stretches slowly. Somewhere milk is delivered. A horse complains. A child wakes crying and is soothed back to bed. And you don't feel tired, but you do feel quiet. Like your thoughts have stepped softly into another room. And in the stillness behind your eyes, something begins to dream. The dawn touches the edge of the city like a polite guest, soft, uncertain, slightly apologetic for showing up. The fog doesn't scatter, it just leans back. The streets don't stir, they shift slowly like someone turning over in bed without really waking. You walk. This time it's toward Bloomsbury again, but not the part you've seen. This is the quieter end, bookseller territory. Boarding houses where failed writers sleep with journals tucked under their pillows, hoping the dreams will write something better than they did. And sometimes they do. You pass a modest house with green shutters and laundry flapping above the alley like exhausted flags. The sign on the door reads, Dr. Solomon, somnambulist and night physician. Underneath, in much smaller script, no appointments before midnight. You knock anyways. A tall man opens the door wearing what appears to be a robe made from curtain fabric and slippers shaped like sleeping foxes. His spectacles dangle from a chain, and his hair has made no attempt to be presentable since the last full moon. He squints at you. Are you conscious? You assure him that you are. He sighs, pity. I get better results with the unconscious ones, but come in. His parlor is an explosion of paper. Dream maps, sleep diagrams, wax cylinder recordings labeled with phrases like moaning, persistent, and unverified barking. He has a wall entirely dedicated to drawings of recurring dream corridors, endless hallways, spiraling stairs, rooms, and curiously, a surprising number of chimneys. The doctor explains that his work is not simply interpreting dreams, but charting their structure, trying to prove they follow physical laws. A dream, he says, is not chaos, it's architecture. the blueprint of the soul's house. He pulls out a large roll of parchment. This, he declares, is the layout of one man's recurring dream over 9 years. It's intricate, filled with notations like stair to childhood memory and room of regret, usually locked. Now you ask if all dreams look like this. In some, he says, others are simpler. Gardens, mazes. A few are just fog, but the structure is always there. If only we could stay asleep long enough to draw the full map. Now he hands you a small object wrapped in velvet. It's a compass. But instead of cardinal directions, it reads, longing, fear, memory, and release. It only works in dreams, he says, but it's never wrong. Historians still debate whether Doctor was a scientist or a romantic fraud or some perfect hybrid of both. His published works were largely ignored in his lifetime, especially on the vertical logic of nightmares, which included theories like dream gravity increases with guilt and ladders only appear when the soul is ready to climb. You leave his house feeling heavier and lighter at once. As outside, the fog has turned to a fine drizzle. London's rain doesn't fall, it clings. It becomes part of your coat, your eyelashes, your breath. You don't rush. This isn't a city that appreciates rushing. You walk past a butcher shop where a pig's head seems to be watching you. A cart filled with onions creaks by, the driver half asleep. And on a bench near the post office, someone in a nightgown is quietly reciting a poem about a staircase that leads into a teacup. You smile, you're not even surprised anymore. By midday, the drizzle has softened into something lazier. Less rain, more suggestion of rain. The kind of weather that makes you crave soup for no reason. You turn onto Court, a narrow little street lined with antiquarian bookstores. Most are closed. A few are open, but only slightly, like a book whose spine you don't want to crack. A bell tinkles overhead as you enter a shop that smells like wet dust and pine resin. A small woman with enormous glasses nods from behind the counter. Dream section, in the back, she says without looking up. Next to historical mysticism and behind emotional alchemy. You make your way through narrow aisles of lining. The books whisper if you believe in that sort of thing. Back here, the shelves are crammed with titles you've never heard of. A sleep etiquette for the 18th century. Collected noises from the brain's back room. The lucid dreamer's cookbook. And a slim gray volume titled Dreams I Forgot on Purpose. You open that once. And inside are short entries, each beginning with a date followed by a sentence or two. March 2nd, dreamt I was a window. Someone looked through me and didn't like what they saw. May 14th, laughed with someone I've never met, but missed terribly. July 29th, woke up crying, no memory why. Pillow smelled like autumn's. You put the book back carefully like it could break. The shopkeeper appears beside you silently. She offers you a glass bottle. Inside it, folded slips of paper. These, she says, are dreams people sold me, the ones they didn't want anymore. Now you ask why someone would sell a dream. The same reason they sell jewelry or houses, she shrugs. They need the space, or the pain is too heavy. She tells you that during the late 1800s, it became briefly fashionable in some circles to write your worst dreams on paper, seal them in glass, and bury them in the garden. Supposedly, it made the nightmares stop. Some even hired specialists, they were called, to interpret the soil after burial. One man dug up his bottle 6 years later. The paper was blank. He claimed it meant the dream had come true. Historians, naturally, are unsure whether any of this actually happened. But there are enough surviving bottles in British Museum archives to suggest something was buried. You leave the bookstore with a small satchel of odd titles and a slip of paper tucked into your coat. It reads, "Tonight, remember, some dreams borrow your face only because they've lost their own." Outside, London hums. Though the rain is gone, but the damp remains. Children chase each other between carriages. A constable feeds crumbs to a pigeon with the patience of a priest. You walk without thinking. And suddenly you're at the river again, right where you started. Though the city hasn't changed, but something in you has. The fog curls around your ankles like it knows you now. Familiar, gentle. The way an old friend rests their hand on your shoulder without needing to say anything. While you close your eyes, and the dream begins again. Night is never truly over in Victorian London. It just gets tired and leans against the wall for a bit. You stand by the riverbank, boots slightly damp, the sky overhead turning from gray to a different gray. And as the city breathes one long, groaning inhale, you begin to notice a strange stillness in the air. Not silence, not emptiness, just a pause. Like something is waiting. A small ferry floats past unmanned. A bundle of flowers tied to the rudder. You watch it go without urgency. No one chases it. Nothing in London is ever truly lost, just temporarily misplaced in time. Your feet move without consulting you, taking you toward the Museum of Peculiar Physiology, a real building in the loosest sense of the word. Tucked between a tailor's shop and an umbrella repair kiosk, its sign is scrawled in crooked gold. Entrance for the curious. Exit for the changed. You go in. It smells like licorice, beeswax, and a hint of nervous ambition. Inside, the floor tilts. Not because it's poorly built, but because the museum believes in keeping its visitors slightly off balance. A narrow hallway leads to a collection of exhibits titled, "The Body in Sleep, Uncooperative Organs and Their Quiet Rebellions." One display features a mannequin with a glass chest. Inside, a glowing paper heart that flutters when you exhale. A placard reads, "During REM sleep, the Victorian heartbeat was believed to be susceptible to outside influence, including poetry, wind chimes, and poor digestion." Another case contains replicas of dream organs, not metaphorical ones, but literal models designed by a man named, who believed we possessed hidden anatomical structures that only activated during sleep. He proposed the existence of a gland which filtered memory before it reached awareness. A lucid lobe located somewhere behind the left eyebrow. And a tiny, pearl-sized organ called the murmur, responsible for feelings of. Needless to say, the Royal College of Surgeons declined to endorse his work. Historians still debate whether was brilliant, delusional, or simply lonely. But his sketches are intricate, strange, almost believable. In the next room, a phonograph plays the recorded breathing patterns of famous Victorians during sleep. Charles Dickens is there, snoring with theatrical flourish. Florence Nightingale breathes steadily, like someone keeping time. A man labeled Only Subject 9 breathes in sharp, syncopated bursts, as if his dreams are trying to escape faster than he can process them. A final exhibit presents a mirror. Just a mirror. But etched along the bottom are the words. Look at yourself. This is the only body that has ever dreamed you. You pause. And in the dimness of that room, surrounded by the imagined mechanics of slumber, you wonder not for the first time what your dreams say when you're not listening. You leave the museum quietly. London exhales with you. And somewhere a clock ticks backward, just once. It's dusk again. Or maybe it never stopped being dusk. Maybe London is just one long, candlelit evening that forgot how to rise. You walk toward the edge of the city where cobblestones give way to grass, where the fog becomes softer, thinner, like a veil being gently drawn aside. They are sparser here, the silence deeper, and the moon, when it peeks through the haze, looks slightly embarrassed to be seen. Ahead is a building unlike the others. Circular, low to the ground, with ivy climbing its bones and windows shaped like half-closed eyes. A wooden sign swings quietly from rusted chains. Of the somnolence, tonight's show begins when you close your eyes. You're not sure if it's open or real, but the door isn't locked. Inside, darkness. Then slowly, faintly warm candlelight flickers. Rows of velvet chairs appear, half filled with sleepers. Some snore softly, others twitch. All are wrapped in blankets and dreams. You choose a seat. It feels familiar. On stage, a woman stands. No spotlight, no music. She wears a dress made of stitched-together pages and her eyes are closed. She begins to speak, not to the audience, but to herself. Her voice is low, slow, warm like sleep against your cheek. Tonight, we remember a dream that doesn't belong to anyone, a hallway of mirrors where no reflection matches your face. A clock with no hands that still makes you late. A stranger who calls you by your real name and you pretend not to hear it. The words flow around you. You don't try to follow them. You let them settle in the folds of your coat, the crease of your sleeve. Someone nearby hums, someone else sighs in their sleep. On stage, the woman continues. Victorians believed in dream residue, that dreams left behind a dust, A psychic dandruff of sorts that settled on pillows lingered in curls of smoke and caused odd behavior by midday. Scientists tried to bottle it. Artists painted with it. Lovers blamed it for feelings they couldn't explain. Now you think about your own pillow. Whether anything has been collecting there. Whether that small ache behind your eyes at noon is just exhaustion, or something dreamt that didn't fully go away. A soft instrumental begins, a music box melody slightly off-key. The kind of tune you might hum if you were half asleep and remembering a song from childhood that never actually existed. Though this stage darkens, though this dies, so someone in the back murmurs, "Don't let them find me in the attic." So no one turns around. You sit there for a long time, long after the performance has ended, or maybe it never did. The woman is gone. The other dreamers remain, breathing like waves. While you exit into the night. And for a moment, just one, you feel like you're being watched, not maliciously, just observed, studied. The way you watch your own dreams just before waking. While you turn back, though the is gone. Where it stood is now only fog and wildflowers. And a small slip of parchment on the ground. While you pick it up, it reads, "The dream is not over just because you woke. It may simply be waiting until you forget enough to return." You tuck it into your coat, where it rests against your chest like a second, quieter heartbeat. London doesn't ask questions. It just keeps dreaming. And so do you. You've stopped keeping track of the hours. Not because you've lost your sense of time, but because time here has softened. It folds instead of ticks. The sun is little more than a rumor now, something spoken of in journals and poems but rarely seen in the flesh. You are walking once again, not by choice but by drift. A gentle gravity pulls your feet forward. The fog has taken on a lavender tint and the lamplight leans warmer as though the city is trying to remember summer. You pass a row of houses with candles in every window, not for lighting, but for dreams. This is a street where the residents believe flame attracts peaceful sleep. A superstition born from a house fire in 1872, which spared only the room of a sleeping child whose candle had gone untouched. They called him the Fire Dreamer, and people came from across the city to touch his doorknob for luck. You reach a square lined with iron benches and sleepy trees. In the center is a marble fountain, dry now, but carved with symbols no one's managed to translate. Some say it was commissioned by a baroness who sleepwalked into the river every full moon, her lips moving as if reciting prayers she didn't know by daylight. A man is seated at the fountain's edge. He's feeding crumbs to something that isn't visible. You sit beside him. He nods slowly. "It's nearly the dreaming hour," he says. You ask what that means. He smiles with half his mouth. "It's when the dreams stop being yours." You glance around. A girl in a straw hat is sketching her own shoes over and over in a notebook. A boy nearby sleeps upright against a tree, muttering numbers. A woman carries a fish wrapped in a handkerchief, whispering to it like it's a child. The man beside you adds, "Everyone forgets that Victorians weren't afraid of dreams. They were afraid of remembering the wrong ones." He pulls from his coat a deck of cards. Instead of suits and numbers, each card bears an image: a ladder to nowhere, a clock melting into soup, a window looking in on itself. "Pick one," he says. "You'll draw what you almost dreamt." You pick the card. It shows a staircase made of teeth, with a red door at the top. He doesn't explain. He just says some dreams are only safe when left unfinished. You leave him at the fountain, the unseen thing still eating crumbs from his palm. As you walk away, the wind picks up, but softly, like a breath on your neck. The streets begin to shift again, not in form but in feeling, as if something behind the brick and gaslight is stretching its arms and preparing to whisper your name. You pass a closed with a note scrawled on the window. "Back at dawn unless I don't wake up, in which case borrow whatever calls to you." You smile, the sign is probably a joke. Probably. You don't remember turning onto this next street, but here you are. The buildings lean closer together now. Their walls bear the soot of too many winters, and their windows have that dusty, yellowed look of eyes that gave up blinking. You move carefully here, not because it's dangerous, but because the air feels thinner and your thoughts sound louder. This is Lane, not named for any actual church, but for a woman once believed to dream in prophecy. Born 1820, recorded over 4,000 dreams in her lifetime. Some described ordinary things: biscuits, garden fences, spilled ink. Others predicted deaths, fires, royal engagements, and once, accurately, the invention of the electric kettle. Her notebooks are stored in a private archive now, but every once in a while one of them surfaces at an estate sale. The dreams are written in pencil and most end mid-sentence. People say they can feel the unfinished ones when they sleep near the books. You pause at a building with dark green shutters. A sign beside the door reads, "The Clinic for Echo Sleep." Inside it's silent. You're met by a nurse with silver thread embroidered on her apron in the shape of a spiral. She gestures for you to follow without speaking. The halls are lined with doors, each labeled not by room number but by phrases like "whispers only," "held breath," and "level 3." You're led to a chamber with walls painted a soft, humming gray. The kind of color that makes you forget your own name just for a moment. A doctor enters. She's older, with moon-colored hair and eyes that never quite meet yours. "You're here for echo interference," she says. You aren't sure." She sits beside you. Many people wake up tired not because they haven't rested, but because they've absorbed too much. Dreams leave echoes, especially in crowded cities. Someone cries in their sleep in the flat below you. That cry bounces upward, lands in your head, and unpacks itself as a nightmare. Not your emotion, not your fear, just something that got lodged in your frame. She hands you a glass globe. Inside it swirls a soft light barely pulsing. This, she says, is a filtered dream fragment, safe to observe, not yours but not dangerous. We use it to train patients to separate their inner dreams from collected ones. You hold the orb, its warms like breath trapped in a jar. She explains that echo sleep was first studied in 1879 after a boarding house reported 13 women all experiencing the same dream. A staircase, a drowned piano, and a red thread that burned on touch. Historians still debate whether it was mass hysteria, shared trauma, or simply the damp. But the idea of dream echoes caught on. Some Victorians started wearing sleep masks laced with silver, believing it deflected emotional residue. Others placed bowls of salt under their beds to ground the dream body. Still others slept on iron cots, cold and uncomfortable, but believed to be echo-proof. You stay in the room a while, breathing in the quiet. And as you leave, the nurse hands you a card. On one side, an engraving of a sleeping lion curled into the shape of an ear. On the other, not every voice in your dream is yours. Learn to listen to the ones that are. Back outside, the fog seems softer. The lights warmer, the stones beneath your feet a little more sure. You begin to suspect that the longer you stay in this version of London, the more your own sleep will change. And maybe it already has. It's evening again. Or perhaps it always was. The sky above London resembles crushed lavender, bruised just slightly where it meets the chimneys. Smoke rises in delicate ribbons. The gas lamps sigh awake. And beneath it all, the city breathes not in gasps or gulps, but slow, steady rhythms, like something asleep with one eye open. You've wandered into a district with worn stone arches, coffee houses that serve no coffee, and bakeries where the flour is older than the owners. But tonight, the streets are emptier than usual. Not quiet, just expectant. You follow a narrow side lane where the signs grow less confident. A cracked wooden plank reads simply, "The thread off of this." Inside, the room is dim and dusty. Rows of shelves lined with colored spools stretch to the ceiling. A woman in a patchwork shawl looks up from behind a desk. You here for a reading?" she asks, "or a release?" You don't know the difference, so she chooses for you. She leads you to a chair beside a loom. This machine, she says, has been here since 1865. It was built by a widow who said her husband's final words were trapped in the knots of her dreams, so she made this to unpick them. She runs her fingers along the spools. Each one has a name, a date, sometimes a symbol burned into its rim. You ask what they are. She replies, these are dream threads, not records of dreams, actual pieces of them. People bring them in after waking. We unwind them, sort the knotted ones from the smooth. You watch as she selects a spool marked only with a crescent moon and the word almost. From it, she pulls a thread that glows faintly, humming with some interior music. She weaves it through the loom slowly, gently, and with each pass of the shuttle a scene unfolds, faint like fog against glass. As a man walking up an endless spiral staircase, holding a candle that never burns down. A door that disappears every time he looks at it directly. The feeling sharp and strange that someone he loves is on the other side. You ask if that's the man's dream. She shakes her head. No, that's the part he couldn't carry. She explains that the Victorians, in all their restrained elegance, often tried to rid themselves of unfinished dreams, especially recurring ones. They believed that unresolved dreams could eventually root, like mold, causing emotional decay. Some hired dream weavers, people who worked with lace and linen by day and memories by night. Others bathed their heads in lavender milk. A few mailed anonymous dream descriptions to the Times, hoping that nomming them in public would make them disappear. As historians remain divided on whether the Victorians were repressing trauma, inventing mythology, or merely bored during long winters with bad plumbing. While you thank the thread keeper. Before you go, she presses a scrap of a woven dream cloth into your palm. It's warm. You're carrying more than you think, she says, but it's not all yours. You step outside. The street is empty now, save for a single cart creaking by, stacked with rolls of dark velvet and bundles of dried herbs. So somewhere above, a dog howls at something that hasn't happened yet. And you walk on, the thread still wrapped gently around your fingers. Your feet take you back toward the heart of the city. But now it feels less like a place and more like an emotion. One of those nameless ones that sits behind you and refuses to explain itself. The fog has thinned, revealing details you didn't notice before. Moss creeping between bricks, carvings in walls that resemble eyes, small birds watching from chimneys with the intensity of librarians. You pass a street corner where a man is reading aloud from a book no one can see. He wears no coat, just a blanket covered in pins, each one labeled with a word like fog, whisper, or regret. He pauses as you pass and says, "You've been dreaming for hours. It's time to wake someone else." Before you can reply, he disappears behind a curtain of steam from a nearby tea cart. You move on, eventually reaching a square you've never seen before, though somehow it feels familiar. Maybe it once showed up in your sleep. Maybe it borrowed a few elements from every other place you've been and rearranged them. At its center, not tall, not grand, just there. The face has no numbers, only symbols, an hourglass, a leaf, a spiral, a door, and a sleeping fox. You enter the building at its base. Inside, a woman sits cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by candles and sand. She wears a key on a chain around her neck, and her eyes close the moment you look at her. "I knew you'd come," she says, as if the sentence had been waiting on her tongue since last Tuesday. She introduces herself as the keeper of the dream hours. There are 13, she tells you, not 24. The Victorians knew this. They kept it quiet. You ask what happens during the 13th hour. She laughs gently. That's when the dreams turn inward, when they dream of you. She opens a small wooden cabinet, revealing a row of vials filled with colored sands. Each grain, she says, is a moment that was nearly dreamt but wasn't. We collect them here, not to study, just to honor. She lifts a vial labeled August, when I almost spoke the truth. Then another, that time I saw a train underwater but forgot to be afraid. You ask her if this was common in the past, this attention to dream detail. Not common, she says, but sacred. The Victorians built entire rituals around the fragments. Some even believed that unslept dreams, those by exhaustion, duty, or fear, would one day find a way back, through illness or strange coincidences. She pauses. Or people like you. You glance at the face again. The spiral symbol glows slightly. You don't ask why. She walks you to the exit, her hand resting briefly on your shoulder. She presses something into your palm, a soft, flattened bell. You turn it over. It bears the shape of a closed eye. For your pocket, she says, not to wake you, just to let the dream know you're listening. Outside, the city looks exactly the same. And completely different. The colors feel closer to your skin. The air feels more like thought than weather. And somewhere, a lamplighter has paused, unsure whether to relight the same street again. Because perhaps you've already passed through this part of the dream. And now, you're the one glowing. Though there are no clocks here. Not broken ones, not melted ones, not ticking, not quiet, just none. It's not that time has stopped. It's that it politely excused itself and never came back. You walk slowly through what appears to be a market, though nothing is for sale. Lanterns swing from wires overhead like sleeping fireflies. The stalls are attended by people in long coats and gloves, even though the air isn't cold. On the tables, not fruit, not fabrics, not bread, but objects you recognize from dreams you didn't know you remembered. A rusted bicycle with no pedals, a key with no teeth, a book titled What They Meant to Say. You pause at a stall where a woman with a veil is gently brushing dust from a row of teacups. Each is filled with a different liquid, ink, starlight, melted wax, and one you're fairly sure is full of echo. She nods at you thirstily. You ask what they do. Each cup brings back one forgotten dream, but just the sound of it, not the image. You lift the cup of melted wax, hold it to your ear. As a footstep, a door latch, breathing, something whispered behind a wall, not yet, not here. You lower it. She offers a smile. Some people aren't ready to remember their own noise. You continue walking. As a child stands at the next stall, trading her night terrors for chalk drawings. One per fright, she says proudly. She hands you a picture of a bird with too many wings and a face that looks faintly like your own. That one came last week, she says. Flew right into my window. Somewhere in the distance, a bell rings. Not the kind that signals time, but the kind that means someone just remembered something they swore they'd buried. You sit on the edge of a fountain in the center of the market. Its water trickles sideways, literally across the surface in a slow horizontal slide, like sleep slipping off a restless child. A man next to you offers a cigarette made of paper dreams. They burn slow, he says, and the smoke remembers your secrets. You politely declines. The woman with the teacups calls to you again before you leave. Come back when you've forgotten something important, she says. We always have it waiting. And just like that, the market begins to fold up. Though the lanterns dim, the stalls shutter. Though the chalk girl pockets her birds, the man with the paper cigarettes disappears mid-blink. And you're standing alone in a square where none of it seems to have ever existed. Only the sideways water remains. And a scrap of paper in your coat pocket you didn't put there. It reads, you have now entered the part of the night that doesn't trust the morning. You walk. It's all you seem able to do now. Wander through this city built of velvet and whisper, shadow and flicker, memory and maybe. But this time the streets seem to narrow of their own accord. They nudge you inward toward some place they want you to see. Somewhere beneath the dream, like a root or a secret cellar. You find yourself on a stairway that winds downward. No handrail, no lantern, just stone steps slick with old dust and soft breaths. You count them. 12. Then you stop counting. Eventually, the stairs release you into a corridor. It's lined with doors. Each door bears a name not of a person but of a dream. Handwritten plaques read. The train without destination. The mirror that opens inward. The memory of the rooms you never entered. You pause at one labeled simply, yours. It's unremarkable, faded paint. Handle slightly warm, you press it open. And inside is a small chamber. One chair, one mirror. One candle that flickers like it's remembering a wind that hasn't happened yet. You said. The mirror does not show your reflection. Instead, it slowly fills with images, not of your life but of your sleep, nights you forgot, moments you ignored, things you felt but never held long enough to name. You watch a younger version of yourself walk through a hallway of hands, each one reaching but never grabbing. You watch a train pull away from a platform, your face in every window. You watch yourself open a letter written in your handwriting, but signed by someone who no longer exists. In the mirror, you are both the dreamer and the dreamed. A whisper emerges from behind the glass. We have watched you longer than you have watched yourself. You don't run. You don't ask questions. Because this far into the dream, you understand. Asking anything out loud is a form of waking. Instead, you line in. You listen. And the mirror breathes. As a second candle lights itself behind you, then a third. The room fills with soft gold light and the mirror fades like fog returning to water. On the wall now is a message written in soot. You are not trapped in the dream, you are the architectures. As you leave the chamber, the hallway has changed. The doors are gone. There's only one path forward, lit by small lanterns held in invisible hands. You walk down the hall and into the night again, feeling not lost, but carried. Held in the careful logic of a city that knows how to dream for you when you're too tired to manage it yourself. And as you pass a lamppost, you glance up and notice something new. Your name is carved faintly into the metal, as if the dream has started remembering you back. There's a softness to the streets now. Not in the literal sense, London's cobblestones remain unyielding, but in the way everything around you feels padded, cushioned by some invisible material made of time and thought. The city isn't quiet, it's hushed. Like a storyteller who's reached the part of the tale that requires you to lean in. You find yourself in a district you don't remember entering. There are no signs here. No street names, just buildings that breathe slowly. Window panes fog gently from the inside, chimneys exhale in unison. You begin to suspect that none of these houses are real, or perhaps all of them are dreams abandoned halfway through construction. One building stands out. Not because it's grand, it isn't, but because it's glowing faintly as though lit from within by a memory. It is covered in moss, ivy, and hundreds of small paper notes pinned to its surface with delicate brass tacks. You lean closer. The notes read like dream fragments. A room filled with clocks, but none ticked in rhythms. He kissed my wrist and said he'd be back in another life. I opened a drawer full of sea water. I ran through a field where the grass whispered secrets. You enter. Inside is a long corridor lined with drawers, like a card catalog from a forgotten library. Each drawer is labeled with a date and a name written in careful Victorian script. Some are jammed shut, some slightly ajar. One glows around the edges. A man with ink-stained fingers appears at your side. He doesn't introduce himself, but gestures for you to follow. His coat smells like cedar and forgotten books. This, he says softly, is the archive of unfinished sleep. You blink, I thought that was just a metaphor. He shakes his head. No, it's a filing system. He explains that every dream not completed, every one interrupted by alarm clocks, cold feet, or late-stage overthinking is stored here. Some people's drawers are nearly empty. Others span whole wings of the archive. You ask about your own. He points. You approach drawer 22, tagged with your initials and a date that hasn't happened yet. You hesitate. Go ahead, he says. It's not locked, just shy. You pull. Is inside a thin black ribbon. a matchbook, a pressed flower, and a small note written in your own handwriting, though it trembles slightly. I never meant to forget her name, but I remember how it felt when she said mine. You stare at it a long time. The archivist says that dream was from 5 years ago. It never finished. It's been waiting for you. He tells you that the Victorians believed dreams stored the emotions we refused to express. That grief, love, jealousy, and awe all had to be housed somewhere, and the sleeping mind was the safest vault. Until it started leaking. Hence the archive. You ask if people come here often. Only the ones willing to remember something painful, he says. Before you leave, he tucks the flower into your pocket and gently closes the drawer. Not all dreams need closure, he says. Some just need company. As outside again, the fog greets you like an old friend who has learned to hug without smothering. And the city waits. You drift now more than walk. The cobblestones don't push back. The fog parts before you. The lamps lean a little closer. Everything seems to know who you are, even if you don't entirely remember. You arrive at a building with no doors. Just an opening, a soft-lit archway with lace curtains and the sound of pages turning behind it. You step through. And inside is what can only be described as a hotel for sleepers. The lobby is quiet. Pillows line the walls. Slippers rest at perfect angles on the floor. A gentle harp plays somewhere far off, not from speakers, but from the hands of someone who's no longer awake. Behind the reception desk is a man in a dressing gown, holding a quill pen and yawning with professional grace. Well, welcome to the house of once dreamt things, he says. Do you have a reservation or just a persistent longing? You shrug, the second one probably. He nods, that's the more common check-in. He leads you up a spiral staircase that climbs in complete silence. No creaks, no echoes, just the feeling of elevation. Along the way, you pass doors with brass plaques. Room 7, where she said it first. Room 12, the one where you could fly but forgot. Room 23, too beautiful to remember clearly. You're given room 11, labeled simply, the threshold. Inside is not a bedroom but a garden. Enclosed, lush, lit by dozens of floating candles that hover just above the flower beds. In the center, a stone bench, you sit. And then you begin to dream. Not asleep, but not awake either. All you see is a field of bells that only ring when stepped on. A lake where people float with umbrellas but no boats. A staircase wrapped in vines that whisper encouragement as you climb. You see your childhood bedroom, but it's also a museum. You see a stranger reading your diary aloud to a mirror that nods. You see yourself asleep, not here but somewhere else, and realize someone is watching you. Then silences. You open your eyes. The garden is unchanged. but there is now a cup of tea beside you still steaming. Now you didn't see who brought it, but there's a note tucked beneath it. You are not the first to visit this room, but you are the only one it remembers. Now you sip the tea, it tastes like the first time you ever felt safe. The harp music continues closer now. The air grows warmer, and the candlelight flickers against the walls like shadows having quiet conversations. Before you leave the room, you press your hand gently to the stone bench. It feels like it's breathing. Now downstairs, the receptionist gives you a card. We hope you return, most do. Often in dreams, they don't realize our dreams. You step outside. The city once again accepts your return. Not with fanfare, just with open arms. And in the distance, a church bell rings not for time, but simply because someone remembered how it feels to fall asleep. The streets feel warmer now, not from sunlight but from memory. You walk past brick buildings that glow like old photographs. They lean inward slightly, as if trying to whisper something to you but unsure of the right language. The fog thins into mist, and the air smells faintly of wax, dust, and that's long since dried. You pass a tailor's shop where no clothes are for sale, only dreams sewn into sleeves, coats lined with lullabies, a dress that folds itself when it hears thunder. Though the tailor nods as you walk by, he doesn't invite you in. He simply places a hand on a coat hanging in the window. The tag reads, "For when you finally forgive yourself." You keep moving. Your body doesn't feel heavy exactly. It just feels unimportant, like it's agreed to step aside for a while so your mind can walk freely. That's what London does at this depth. It unbuttons your consciousness, lets it stretch its legs. You arrive at a garden gate, tall, wrought iron, curled like vines. A sign reads, "The Conservatory of Forgotten Scent." You don't hesitate. Inside is not a garden, but a greenhouse of memory. The air is thick with perfume, not floral but emotional. Each plant here has been cultivated not for its petals or roots, but for the feelings they once evoked in someone's dream. And now somehow they're growing. You walk among them. A pale blue vine that smells like waiting by a window. A flower shaped like a curled fist, its scent bitter and brave. The leaves that hum faintly when touched, releasing the scent of unfinished lullabies. An elderly woman in gardening gloves waves to you from a patch of ivy. Her eyes are clouded, but her hands are sure. Most people don't come here until they've lost something, she says. A person, a dream, a version of themselves they thought they'd keep. She hands you a small jar. Inside, a single petal shimmering like light on water. A scent of recognition, she tells you. You'll need it later, when you meet the version of you that never woke up. You don't ask what she means. There's no use trying to rush comprehension in a place like this. Some truths arrive long after the moment has passed. You thank her and leave through the rear gate, which opens onto a street you don't remember ever existing, though your feet seem to. A familiar bench sits near, and on the bench a journal. You open it. It's yours. Not in the sense that you wrote it, but in the sense that it knows you. Inside are pages filled with observations you never made, feelings you never admitted, and one sentence repeated. You are the echo of something still dreaming. You close the journal. The bench exhales beneath you. And far above, the stars begin to rearrange themselves into shapes only visible to those in between sleep and story. You walk slower now, not because you're tired, but because the city is beginning to feel like the inside of your own mind. Every window reflects something you once imagined. Every alley hums with a voice you almost recognized. You reach a plaza tiled with black and white stones, each square engraved with a word. Longing, clarity, hesitation, silence, hope, absence, return. You cross the plaza carefully, your boots clicking in a rhythm that feels predetermined. The sound echoes gently, like someone clapping far away for a performance only you are part of. At the plaza's center stands a gazebo carved from dark wood that creaks in the breeze. Inside, a man seated at a typewriter. He wears no hat, no coat, just a gray vest and an expression that says, "I've been expecting you for years." "Have a seat," he says without looking up. You do." He types slowly. With each key pressed, a lantern hanging above flickers. "I'm the dream scribe," he says. "I record what the city dreams when no one else is watching." You glance at his page. He's typing. She sat across from me, unsure whether she was part of the story or just a witness to it. You raise an eyebrow. He shrugs. "I write what happens, but sometimes the dream writes me first." He tells you that the Victorians believed cities could dream, that the architecture of a place held collective memories, the way stone remembers footsteps and wallpaper holds onto whispers. He says this particular city, London at night, often dreams in full sentences. And those sentences require transcription. You ask what happens to the words after he types them. He answers without looking up. They get planted. He points beyond the plaza, where a garden glows in the distance. The phrases become seeds, he says. People walk through them in their sleep. Sometimes they bloom into ideas. Sometimes they stay buried and become the weight people carry without knowing why. You ask what sentence he's planting now. He types. Forgiveness arrives slowly, dressed in your handwriting. You want to say something, but the wind lifts the page from his typewriter and carries it away before you can respond. He smiles. That one wasn't meant for you, but it passed through you on its way to someone else. You thank him. Oh, he nods, still typing. And as you walk away, you glance back and realize the gazebo is gone. The plaza is just a field now. The typewriter a sound you hear but cannot place. As in your pocket, the jar of recognition glows faintly. And around you, the city has grown quieter. No, not empty, not asleep. Just listening. You reach a bridge. It's narrow, arched, and seems to pass over nothing. No water, no street, no gap, just a space. There is no sign, no railing. Only this carved faintly into the stone. Here ends the dream you were given. Here begins the one you choose. You stand there on the bridge. Breathing. Between what was imagined for you and what you're about to create yourself. And somewhere far behind you, the lamplighter pauses, not to light another flame, but to watch you walk forward. You cross the bridge. It makes no sound beneath you, though your steps feel full. Each movement seems to press not onto stone, but into memory. Behind you, London begins to blur, not disappear exactly, just soften like a painting put too close to the rain. Ahead is a hallway of air. There are no walls, only door frames freestanding in rows, dozens of them. Maybe hundreds, some are open, some are shut. One is barely cracked, and you feel that it's been waiting for you to push it gently. A sign floats overhead. The corridor of versions. You walk slowly, passing doors labeled in looping script. Although you who said yes. Although you who never left. Although you who asked first. Although you who chose silence. Each door hums faintly like a note just below hearing. You get the feeling that if you opened any one of them, you'd see yourself, but slightly different, not distorted, just possible. And at the fifth door, you pause. The plaque reads, although you who'd dreamed first, you open it. Inside is a small room with a bed. On the bed is a child, curled asleep, one hand beneath their cheek, the other holding a ribbon. It's you. Not exactly, but unmistakably. Not the body, the feeling, the shape of your breath when you were still learning what sorrow was, when wonder wasn't something you had to earn back. You watch for a while. The child stirs, whispers something unintelligible. The ribbon falls to the floor. You pick it up. It's soft, dark, threaded with symbols that shift when you blink. The only one that stays steady is shaped like a spiral. You place it in your pocket. Not as a keepsake. As a key. Because that's what this version of you was protecting. Your first permission to dream. You leave the room quietly. The doors behind you begin to fade, one by one, as if they know they've been seen. Eventually, you reach the end of the corridors. There's only one door now. It has no label, no lock. You open it and enter a room made entirely of reflections. The floor is polished like still water. The walls ripple like thought. And the ceiling reflects a sky that doesn't match the one outside. You are standing in the mirror room, not a room made of mirrors, but a room remembered by them. Everything here feels doubled, echoed, as if your presence calls itself into being over and over just to confirm you're still real. Though there are no shadows in this room. Only choices. In the center stands a tall, arched glass framed in brass etched with symbols. A hand, an open book, a cracked cup, a moth, a ring of smoke. Though the glass is clouded, but you say movement. A version of yourself stands on the other side. Not you as you are, but you as you might have been if the last 5 years had gone slightly differently. The expression on their face holds recognition, regret, and the beginning of peace. Though they mouth something, are you lining ends? The glass fogs. A voice not yours, not theirs, but the mirror's speaks. This is the version that continued the dream you left behind. You ask which dream. It replies, the one you woke from too early. The one that wasn't done with you. The mirror shifts. You now see yourself walking through a field at dusk. In your hand, a letter you never sent. Behind you, a door that never closed. Ahead of you, a figure waiting, patient, kind. The mirror says, you can visit, you can observe, but you cannot replace. You nod. You're not here to undo, just to understand. You place your hand on the glass. The surface feels warm like someone's cheek. And then it clears. Now you see a table. On it, all the items you've gathered along this journey. The glass jar of scent from the conservatory. The dream thread cloth from the weaver. The ribbon from your sleeping self. The bell with the closed eye. The journal you didn't write. And now something new. A compass with no directions, just feelings. Remorse. All courage. All tenderness. Return. You pick it up, it spins slowly. And then points to the far side of the room. There's another door. Unlabeled. Wider. Breathing. Before you step through, the voice in the mirror speaks once more. You are no longer walking through the city's dream. You are walking through your own. You breathe in deeply. It smells like thunder, lavender, and your childhood blanket. And as you cross the threshold, the room dissolves behind you. The mirror dims. The past folds. And then somewhere nearby, you hear something click softly into place. A latch. Or a memory. Or a version of you finally letting go. You walk into the dark. But it isn't empty. It's warm. Like breath. I like wool. Like the inside of a pocket where someone used to keep secrets. There are no walls now, no ceilings, just space that curves gently in every direction as if the world has decided to exhale and finally stop pretending it's square. Your feet no longer make sound. The air here is so soft it refuses to echo. Even your thoughts feel muffled, as though the dream is asking you to think more gently. Ahead, there's a glow. It comes not from flame, nor lantern, nor moonlight. It radiates from the ground itself. The path beneath you is made of something resembling velvet sand, black, but speckled with tiny lights that pulse with memory. You kneel to touch one. It hums, and for just a moment you see a woman standing on a hill, her back to you, hair blowing like ribbon. You never knew her name, but she once held your hand in a dream and called you my reason. You move on. Each step lands on a memory you didn't know was yours. Not clear ones, just textures, feelings, the weight of a sentence unsaid, the shape of laughter you haven't made in years. You realize something slowly. This is not the city's dream anymore. This is yours. But not the conscious kind. This is the dream your soul tells itself when it's tired of pretending to be awake. Up ahead, a gate appears. But it isn't locked, it's not even closed, it just stands there, tall, arched, made of glass. Inside it, the faint outline of a house. The kind of house you used to draw as a child. A chimney, sloped roof, one big window with curtains. You step through and find yourself in a bedroom. Your bedroom, but not your current ones. This is the bedroom that only exists at the exact intersection of nostalgia and truth. The one that's shaped like comfort and lit like forgiveness. A bed, a chair, a window. And someone is asleep beneath the blanket. You walk closer. It's you. The real you. Not the dreamed, revised, improved, or forgotten version. Just the self you carry behind your eyes every day, but never stop long enough to greet. Your breathing is steady, your shoulders relaxed, you are whole and quiet. You sit beside yourself. You wait. You remember the scent from the jar. You uncork it gently, and the air fills with something familiar. The scent of a morning you once thought was ordinary, but now remember with holy reverence. As outside the window, the night breathes like a lullaby. And inside, you finally speak. Not aloud, but into the stillness. A sentence that doesn't need sound. I forgive you for the things you didn't dream. Your sleeping self stirs. A soft smile forms. And just like that, the dream folds. Not like paper. Like arms. You are no longer walking. You are floating. Or rather, you are being carried by something you cannot see but fully trust. The dream has become your boat, and the water time itself. Around you, nothingness. But not the cold kind. This is the fertile dark, the place before thought, before image, where everything begins and nothing ends. While you drift, above you, stars rearrange into familiar constellations that never existed in any sky. The spoon of sorrow, the fox of almost, the key that never turned. Each one flickers softly, like memories that learned how to breathe. Below you, shapes move. No, not threatening, just curious. They seem to be other dreams, untethered, half-formed, some with faces, some with music. One drifts past you whispering a lullaby in a language no one ever spoken, but everyone understands. And then, you hear a voice. Not from outside, from within. But it's not your usual inner voice, the critical one or the anxious one. It's the oldest voice you carry. The one that first spoke before you had words. It says, you may wake now if you wish, or you may stay. But either way, this has always been yours. You pause. You realize this was never just a dream about the Victorians. Not about their fears, not their ghost stories, not even their and lace. This was about you. You and your right to rest. You and your permission to feel. You and your belonging in the gentle night. You open your eyes. Or do you? You sit up. Or maybe not yet. Because somewhere in the real world the blanket has shifted. The air has cooled. The window rattles faintly in its frame. But here, I hear you are still whole. Still resting. Still in that soft, unspeakable place where the story ends not with an answer, but with understanding. And far away, just faintly, as though from another world. The lamplighter climbs the final post of the night. He tips his hat to you. He smiles. And says, you made it to the end. Sleep well, little wanderers. Then the lamp goes out. And London sleeps. And you drift. Still glowing. Still safe. Still held by the dream. There's something new now. Not louder. Just clearer. As if the air has been listening long enough and has finally decided to speak. You find yourself walking once more, though the path doesn't quite feel like a street. It's softer than cobblestones, warmer than earth. Like walking on a memory that's grown kind enough to carry your weight. Around you, the buildings return, but they've changed. They're no longer the Victorian London of soot and shadow. These are structures made of thought, of tone, of story. Some are built from book pages, some from folded maps, one from the ticking sound of a clock that only counts moments when you're being honest. You enter the first building. And inside, a long corridor filled with chairs. Each one faces a mirror, but these aren't mirrors that show reflections. They show moments, ones you've never seen but that somehow still belong to you. As a girl standing in the rain, choosing not to knock on the door. As a man at a desk, writing your name in the corner of a letter he never sent. A version of you at age 16, pausing on the stair, trying to decide whether to speak or swallow it forever. So the mirrors hum gently like they're telling you, "Oh, you didn't fail these moments." They simply became roots for the person you are now. Oh, you leave without touching them. Not out of fear, but out of respect. The next building is smaller, round, made entirely of windows, none of which opened. And inside is a single table, and on it a black box. All you said. The box doesn't need a key. It simply opens when you ask nothing of it. Inside, as a button from a coat you lost on a train. As a playing card with your handwriting on it. A single match. And a slip of paper that says, "You were here before, you'll be here again. Be gentler next times." You leave the building slower than you entered. Because some truths must be carried in silence, like candles in wind. Outside, the path curves again. As it leads toward a canal you recognize, not from this life, but from a dream you had as a child, where water meant escape and bridges meant bravery. You step onto a small boat waiting by the bank. No one guides it, as it simply knows where to go. And you let it take you. Because the time for steering has passed, and the time for arriving has begun. The boat moves gently, more glide than sail, more whisper than wave. The city reflects in the still water, upside down and shimmering like a memory trying to recall itself properly. Gaslights flicker in duplicate. The arches above become tunnels below. You are both inside the world and beneath it. You pass under bridges made of whispered apologies, beneath overhanging balconies where no one stands, but you feel watched in the best way. Watched by loves that never had a name. Watched by the possibility of peace. And at one point the boat pauses. Not for long, just long enough for you to notice the cathedral rising beside the water. It isn't made of stone. It's made of sleep. Its spires reach upward like sighs. Its windows shimmer with dreams turned into glass and carved into its doors. This is the place where things end softly. You enter. Inside silence. But not the kind that punishes, the kind that listens, the kind that waits. Rows of empty pews stretch out before you and at the front. A pulpit made from a single piece of carved night. And behind it a figure. Not a priest, not a guide, just someone. They do not speak. Instead, they place their hand over their heart. And suddenly, you understand everything. Not in language, not in logic, But in feeling, you understand that the Victorians lit candles not only to see, but to remember. You understand that nightmares were not demons, they were invitations, challenges, messages from the parts of ourselves we kept buried beneath corsets and propriety. You understand that every person who's ever dreamed has visited this place. Even if they don't remember. Even if they think they're the only one who wakes up crying sometimes. And you understand that this place is not just inside a dream. It is inside you. You kneel not in worship but in returns. And you feel, for the first time in a very long while, the weight leave your shoulders. Not all of it, or just enough. The figure approaches, places something in your hand. It's the match from the box earlier, and a news slip of paper. I'll use this to relight what went out in you, gently. You thank them. They've vanished. Not in a puff of mystery. Just in a soft exhale of story, as if they were never a person, only a paragraph that was waiting to be read. You step back outside. The boat is waiting. This time it glows. You step in. And it takes you across the final bend of the canal, where the city begins to fade behind you. Not disappear. Just step back. Like a good dream does when it knows you're ready to wake. The boat drifts, not toward an end, but toward a re-entry. The water beneath you glows faintly, like it's remembering light. The buildings along the canal edge begin to shimmer, then dissolve, first their outlines, then their windows, then their intentions. You are not watching London fade. You are watching the dream release its shape. And as it does, something in you begins to rise, slowly, like mist lifting off a warm surface. A sensation you didn't know was still with you, an ache maybe, or a fear. Or a version of yourself that had curled up in some far back corner, waiting for the silence to feel safe again. You bring a hand to your coat pockets. It's still there. The scent, the ribbons, the journal, the thread, the compass with no directions, only emotions. And the matches. You feel the weight of them, though they are light. You know now these are not tokens. They are instructions. Reminders of the you that stayed behind in all those interrupted dreams. The you that never got a proper good night. The boat slows. Ahead a simple dock, stone, ivy-lined, familiar. A sign stands at the edge, hand-painted in faded ink. You do not wake because the dream ends. You wake because it trusts you to carry it. You step off the boat. It drifts backward, bowing slightly, then disappears. The path before you is narrow. And there's no city now. Just the field. You recognize it before your eyes do. The feeling hits your chest like breath you didn't know you were holding. It's the field from a dream you had as a child. It's the one with the golden grass and the willow tree that always waved even when there was no wind. Now you walk into it. Each blade of grass seems to hum a note from a song you never heard all at once, but know by heart. And at the base of the willow, yes, it's here just like you remember, sits a small bench made of woven roots. All you said, and something sits beside you. All you don't turn this, because you don't need to. You already know who it is. It's the version of you who stayed in the dream longer. The one who remembered how to rest. The one who didn't rush toward the next task, the next goal, the next apology. Well, they don't speak. They simply pass you a cup of something warm. It smells like kindness and cloves. I'll use a sip. And in that moment, you remember. The dream didn't heal you. It simply let you hold the parts of yourself you usually try to outrun. The version of you lines in and whispers something. You don't hear words. You hear permissions. To wake. To rest again. To return whenever you need it. The wind moves through the field. The tree sways like it's exhaling. And the sky tilts gently. Not to end the dream, but to guide you home. You are still in the field. But now the light has changed. Not brighter, not darker. Just softer, like someone has dimmed the edges of the moment to make it easier to leave. The version of you beside the tree stands up. So they give you a nod, not of farewell, but of agreement. You watch them walk toward the horizon, which rolls gently like breath. And then, they are gone. Not vanished. Just folded into the soil of this place, like a seed planted for another dream. You close your eyes. Not to sleep, but to return. Because now finally the dream has shown you the exit, not as a door but as a bridge. A bridge that connects then and now, fog and sun, sleep and self. And as you begin to cross it, slowly, calmly, you remember one more thing the Victorians once believed. That the soul walks beside the body at night, loosely tethered. And that dreams are the conversations they have before rejoining each morning. You're ready now. The grass beneath your feet feels more solid. The wind begins to carry familiar smells. Old wood floors, fresh linen, maybe even the faint citrus of your waking world's shampoo. You place one hand over your heart and feel it beating. Not fast. Not loud. Just steady. Like a thank you. You open your eyes. You're back in your bed. The ceiling you know, the quiet of your own room, the weight of the covers, the pulse of morning just beginning to arrive. But you don't rise yet. Now you lie there for a few more moments. All because you remember of everything. Not in orders. Not in sentences. But in feeling. You remember the flames that knew your names. The scent of recognition. The bells that never needed to ring. The dream scribe's typewriter. The mirrors that forgave you. The archives that waited for your returns. You remember that sleep is not a pause. It's a conversation. A gift. A map. And now you carry the map with you. You rise slowly. The world greets you not with noise, but with stillness. You breathe. And for the first time in a long while, you do not feel like you're rushing back into reality. You feel like you're bringing a piece of the dream with you. Like a note pressed into your pocket by a version of yourself you almost forgot. Rest is not a reward. It is your right. You move through the morning gently. Not as someone waking from a night's sleep, but as someone returning from another country, one made of mist, paper, memory, and mirrors. The edges of the dream are already starting to fade, but not disappear. They linger like the scent of something warm on your coat, like music still playing softly in the other room. You don't need to hold on to every details. You don't need to write it all down. Because the dream didn't happen for remembering. It happened for feeling. You stand beside the window of your waking life, watching the outside world begin its routines. Cars hum. Birds dart. A neighbor waters a plant with the tired reverence of someone who forgot yesterday. But you stand differently now. Not taller, not changed. Just returned. With the quiet confidence of someone who walked the length of night and didn't ask it to change, but understood it anyway. You pour a cup of tea or coffee or waters. You sip slowly. You glance at the clock not to chase time but to greet it. It's not rushing you. It's waiting patiently, like the page of a book you closed mid-sentence last night, trusting you'd come back. You feel the quiet ache in your chest, where something once sat heavy. Now it's just a space. Not emptiness. The room to breathe. The room to forgive. The room to remember what dreaming felt like. Now let it all go. The streets, the buildings, the ribbons, the mirrors. The smell of lavender in places it didn't belong. Let the thread unravel quietly. Let the match remain unlit. Let the glass bell rest without ringing. You don't need to hold onto anything now. You don't need to try to sleep. You've already returned. The dream may fall behind you like a long coat shedding dust. Or it may follow like a quiet cat, curling itself around your ankles just before dawn. Either way, you are safe. You are home. Let your breathing slow. Let your limbs soften. Let your thoughts fold like linen into drawers too small to hold questions. You've done enough. You've wandered through shadow and fog and half-remembered lullabies. You've watched forgotten versions of yourself wave from windows that don't exist. You've let silence answer you. Now, you rest. Not to escape. Not to forget. But to remember how it feels to be still. The lamplights are all dim now. The city sleeps. And you are not lost. You are just dreaming. Again. And again. And again. Until morning comes. And this story lets you go. With love. With light. And with no need to explain. And later today, when the world forgets how to whisper, when inboxes scream and small stresses sharpen their elbows, you might feel it again. Though that longing to returns, not just to sleep, but to that place, to the dream that wasn't trying to fix you or teach you or even impress you. Just hold you. You'll remember the feeling of fog on cobblestones, the lamplighter pausing, the silent museum of echoes, the mirror that never showed your face but knew it anyway. You'll remember a door labeled only yours. A land in the city that changed shape with your breaths. And in the middle of your day, when someone asks how you are, you might smile and say, I slept well. But what you really mean is, as I journeyed into the places in me I hadn't visited in a long time. I let the forgotten versions of myself speak. And I was not afraid of the quiet. And for once, I was listened to. Completely. Gently. Without interruption. And now, you carry that gentleness back. Not in your hands, and in your voice, and in the way you speak to yourself at 3:00 p.m. when you've made a mistake. Is in the way you forgive someone for not calling back. In the way you close your eyes for 30 seconds in the sunlight and say, I'm still here, I'm still dreaming, even now. And when the night returns, as it always does, you'll welcome it. You'll make a little more space in your bed. And perhaps you'll light a candle near your pillow. Not for light, but for memory, for ritual, for the soft, sacred hope that the dream remembers you too. Because somewhere, in a version of London that exists only at the border of sleep, the lamplighter walks. He carries the same flame. And tonight, he'll pause at your window. He'll tip his hat and whisper, it's a time. We've been waiting. And your story is safe here.